Hello everyone, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I am Arif, your cloud learning journey partner. Well, in today's video, we're gonna cover AWS RDS. RDS stands for Relational Database. So whenever we build an application, we need a database. So if we are dealing with a relational data, then we need a relational database. The good part is that in cloud, in AWS, we can use RDS, which is managed by AWS. So we don't need to worry about the management part. We can just use the paid service and we can deploy our database inside the RDS console, and it's pretty easy. So before we start the video, I just want to talk about my background. So I do have more than 8 years of experience in cloud computing. I do have AWS, Azure, Google Cloud certification. Beside that, I do have vast level of experience related to cloud security and cyber security. So after watching the video, you will be able to answer any question related to RDS database. You will be able to create an RDS database from scratch, which would be awesome for your knowledge. And before I start the video, one more thing, please like and subscribe to my channel, because I'm gonna cover all the AWS services in future, and also beside that I'll cover the certification process and everything related to cloud and cybersecurity. So without further delay, let's get started. Logged into my AWS account. From the AWS console, from the search menu, we have to look for RDS. So I am opening RDS in a new console in here. So this is the RDS console, and from the left panel we can see the different subsection or subcategory of this RDS console. So what we're gonna do into this video, first we're gonna create a database from scratch. So it will help you to actually understand the key components of RDS, and I will explain each and every component when I use one. Okay, so I will click this create database option in here. So there are two modes to create an RDS DB. One is the standard create and another is the easy create. Well, easy create, we won't select this one because it will be straightforward and easy for us, and we really want to know the nitty-gritty part of the deployment process. So we gonna choose this standard create option, and for the engine options here you can see that AWS RDS offers us many sort of engine types like Aurora. So it's a MySQL version that is developed by AWS, which is a little better, but it's a proprietary product of AWS. The second one is Aurora. So it's a PostgreSQL compatible, but it is AWS product. Then we do have standard MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. So we got tons of option in here. So for this video, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go with the standard MySQL engine. Okay, so here for edition, I'm gonna select the MySQL community, and here under the engine version we have to select which version we would like to use for our MySQL. So it's always a good practice to go with the latest one, so that's why I'm gonna choose this MySQL 8.0.33. Okay, so the template, so we do have few options in here, so it depends on your requirement. So suppose you are deploying an RDS DB for a production workload, then you can choose this one. And if you're working for dev, then or test, then you can go for this. And the third option is the free tier. So suppose you're a learner, you need to learn like how does this RDS work. So in that case, you can go for the free tier. So for the sake of this video, I'm gonna go with the free tier because after creating this video, I'm gonna delete it anyway. So that's why free tier is good for me. So I'm gonna select this free tier option in here. Okay, so when I select the free tier, you see one thing happen in here, in this section. So when we select the production one, then it is creating a multi-AZ DB. So we will have another DB in another AZ, the availability zone. So we'll have basically two AZ. It's good for the failover, and but it's gonna cost us more. But for production, it's really worth it. But for free tier, it's gonna eliminate all the options in here. So for the setting, the DB instance identifier. So this is the name that will be shown under the RDS console for your DB. So for this DB, I'm gonna call it test DB. So once I specify the DB instance identifier, then I have to put my master username. So I'm good with the default one, that is the admin. We can change it as we like. Then for the password, it's there's two options. One is auto-generated password, and another is like you can create your own password. I'm gonna go with the second option because a master password, so then I can make it more complex, and in this way we can secure our environment. So real quick, I'm gonna create a password in my text file, then I'm gonna use that one for this video. Okay, so I do have my password in here. I'm gonna copy it and paste it in here, and here we go. So we have put our master password and confirm the master password. Cool. So in this section, we have to select the instance class. So remember, whenever we deploy a RDS DB, at the backend, what is happening actually? In the backend, we are using an EC2 server, and this EC2 server is hosting the RDS DB. So even though it's managed by the AWS side, but still we need a server. We need to define the server. As it is managed from the AWS side, that's why when we create an RDS DB, we don't have access, we don't have the SSH access to the EC2 server that is hosting the RDS DB. So that's why it's called managed by AWS. So for the free tier, it doesn't give us options to actually go with the standard classes or memory classes. The burstable classes, these are different kind of classes that EC2 has. So if I click in here, you can see the T2 micro, T3 micro, these are available under the free tier only, T4 too. So we're gonna go with the T3 micro because it's a free tier, so I don't have to pay extra for this instance type. That is good. Now we're gonna look into the storage section. So by default, AWS selected GP2 for us, so I'm good with the GP2. So, but before moving forward, let's look into the other options. So GP3 is an upgrade version of GP2, and this is also SSD, likewise the GP2. So if you want better performance, you can always go for GP3. And the third option is provisioned IOPS SSD. This is also SSD. The only difference between this and that one is that here you can define the IOPS. So suppose you are working on an application which requires a lot of input output per second, then you can define the number in here. So in this way, you can fulfill your requirement. The last option is magnetic, so it's not that fast. Suppose you want to archive something or similar like that, then you can go for this option. But for a production application, it's not recommended. Then for the allocate storage, by default, AWS granted like 20 GB, so you can increase it. But as this is for demo video, that's why I'm just gonna go with the 20 GB. After that, the storage auto scaling. This is a very cool feature that is enable storage auto scaling. So suppose you have allocated 20 GB in here and you are full 20 GB. So what's gonna happen in this case? If we enable the storage auto scaling, then it will scale up to 1000 GB. You can change the number. So this is a threshold in here. So you don't have to really worry about like my RDS DB storage is going to full. I have to do some manual changes here and there. You don't have to do it. That's why it's called managed service. AWS will do it for you, and you don't have to worry about it. This is a very cool feature. Okay, then after that, let's look into the networking section, which is connectivity. Okay. So the compute resources here, we do have two options in here. We have to choose one. Like first option, do not connect to an EC2 compute resource, connect to an EC2 compute resources. So I'm gonna go with the default one. If I need to connect to it, then I'll do the manual configuration by myself. So this option is good for me. And then the network type, so we do have two options like IPv4 network type and the dual stack mode, that is IPv4 and IPv6. So for the sake of the video, I'm good with the IPv4. Okay, so then we need to define the VPC, the virtual private cloud. So I have covered VPC in my previous video. So if you are not familiar with the VPC concept, you must need to learn what is VPC, because everything in AWS that we are dealing with, like servers, everything is deployed inside a VPC. So having a brief understanding of VPC is very important to become a cloud engineer. So here we do have two VPCs. So the first one is the default one. So in every AWS region, we get a default VPC. And the second one that I created when I was explaining the VPC video. So I'm gonna go with the default VPC for now. And the DB subnet group, there's only one default because I haven't created any customized subnet group in here. So what is subnet group? That could be a very good question. So suppose we have a very specific subnet in mind that we want our RDS DBs to be deployed in that particular group of subnet. So in that case, what we can do, we can create a subnet group and we can add all those subnet under the subnet group. So whenever we choose that particular customized subnet group, then all the DBs, RDS DBs will be deployed inside that subnet group. Okay, so then the public access. So we do have two options here. One is yes, one is no. So a good question could be when we need a public access to our DB and when we shouldn't have public access. Let me answer the second one, like when you shouldn't have. Suppose you have a production application, okay? So for instance, think about Amazon.com. So Amazon.com, this web application should have a front-end part, that is a web servers that will get all the traffic, all the requests that we request for any product. Okay, so and then it need to check the inventory, the backend. Then for that we need a database, and the database should be in a private subnet in a different server. So what's going to happen? Our request will be sent to the web server, and from web server will try to connect to the private subnet private subnet DB, because it needs those information. So in this way, we are creating multi-tier application, maintaining the security. And when we can have this public access, well, when we are doing some testing or in a dev environment or a staging environment, then we can go for this public access option. So let's choose yes for now because it's more of a demo video. And then we need a VPC security group or firewall. So likewise EC2 server. So if you want to learn about EC2, let me know under the comment section. I'm gonna create a different video related to EC2. So whenever we use RDS, we need to define a security group. So security group, we can call it like the firewall. So it will have the inbound request rules and outbound request rules. So it will verify whether our request is allowed to communicate with our server. So we do have a default security group attached to it already, so I'm good with that one. And the availability zone, so if you have any preference, then you can select any availability zone. Let's select US East 1 for this video, and then we can look into the additional settings like the database port. So remember, for RDS MySQL, it always uses the port 3306. So whenever you try to connect to a RDS DB, you have to specify the port that should be the 3306. Okay, database authentication, we are good with the password authentication for this video. So for monitoring, suppose this is a prod RDS DB. In that case, we must have to enable the enhanced monitoring. If we click in here, then we can grab a lot of information about our RDS DB from RDS console, and also some logs will also be sent to the CloudWatch. So it's a very good practice if you want to use RDS for your prod environment. After that, here under this additional configuration setting, the database option. So if we want to have an initial database inside our DB, then we can define the database name. Maybe I'm gonna call it test. Just test is fine. Then the DB parameter group, there's only one. We will select the default one, and here the backup. So backup is very critical in RDS, because for database it's very important to have backups. The good part is that we can enable the automated backups. So how it works here, we have to define how many days we want to retain our database. That is the backup retention period. The default one is 7 days, a week, and the backup window. Backup window is also important because suppose your application is very busy at daytime, so you don't want to allow the backup at daytime, because whenever we are taking a backup, the performance of the RDS-DB could be affected. So for that reason, choose a time frame when you know that there are very few traffics coming to your web server or DB. So in that way, you are taking care of your new request. Cool. So for this video, I'm just gonna disable it. I don't need to enable the automated backups. And yeah, so this is also good. Like we should enable the auto minor version upgrade. This helps our RDS-DB to be updated every time there is any update. Okay, so that's pretty much of it. Now I'm gonna hit create database option. And in the back end, now we can see from the console our test DB is in creating status. So I'm gonna pause this video. When this DB is available, then we'll look into different sections. So now we can see the status is available of this RDS DB. Now let's click here, the test DB. Here we can see all the connectivity and security settings that we have done, our security group rules, and after that we can also see some monitoring stuff in here too. It's taking some time because it's the first time it's populating all this data for us. So here we can see a very good amount of monitoring configurations and statistics in here, which is good. And under the configuration setting, here you'll see like all the settings that we have defined throughout the video. Okay, so when we are talking about the connectivity, here we can see that we got an endpoint. So this is the endpoint, this is the port we need to use to connect to this server or RDS-DB. So if we want to connect to this RDS-DB through an EC2 server, so under the security group, you have to enable the connection. So under security group inbound, you have to allow traffic from that particular EC2 server to this RDS-DB instance. Then you can do the connection. So then you can run some commands under the EC2 server to make the connection, and there you can do the configuration. Other than that, EC2 server, you can also use some third-party applications to connect to the RDS-DB. Congratulations guys for reaching this far of this video. Today we have covered how to create RDS-DB from scratch. We have talked about different configuration settings. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or any concerns related to this RDS service, please let me know under this comment section, and I guarantee that I'm gonna reply back within 1 day. Thank you so much guys for watching my video. It means a lot to me. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I am planning to upload videos in a very frequently basis covering different IT stack like cloud computing, cybersecurity, cloud security, different stuff. So please stay connected, and that's all for today. Have a great day.